Sorry. Hey, what's up, everyone? We're here outside the D.C. Superior Court in Washington, D.C. A bunch of people have court hearings today who were mass arrested protesting Donald Trump's inauguration on January 20th. Everyone who's still facing charges as a result of that arrest is facing 75 to 80 years in prison. Most people's charges are based only on their presence at the protest. Some property destruction and stuff took place, but there's like blanket felony charges for everyone that was involved in that protest. A lot of people are calling it like an unprecedented and dangerous crackdown on protesters. People are going to have a press conference and a rally here in a second. To my left, you can hear there's like a local street preacher with megaphones who's sort of here just yelling at people. He says he's here because he has court today, too, for something else. So it sounds like he quieted down. I think we're going to hear from some speakers here in a minute.
Oh, yeah, I was telling them, they was yelling it back at me. Of course, I was saying F-U-C-K, and I was saying following under Christ's kingdom. But them anarchists, they was throwing bricks in buildings. They were bombing shit. Oh, yeah, they come on trial today.
Not on trial today.
It's not trial? What it? Oh, it's a motion to dismiss. A motion to dismiss. A motion to dismiss. Fuck this shit.
It's a motion to dismiss being heard today. Woo! Thank you. Thank you.
Amen. Do what you do. God bless you too. Thank you for coming over here and sharing. Let the brother know. Let the brother in. You tell someone, all you can do is inform them. It's going to do what it do. And knowing is half the battle. Well done. Well done. Amen. Hey, they call this a protest. On the serious though. In the last 15 years that I've been in D.C., my ministry has been seen at mostly every protest in the last 15 years. My ministry has been around for quite some time. When my ministry first began, I was living in Baltimore. They were filming The Wire second season.
Oh, there we go.
Ministries would shut down production of The Wire until my ministry decided it was okay to proceed. See, I was born.
So thank you everyone for coming out today to show your support for the J20 defendants.
During the riots of Baltimore, these megaphones right here, right in the middle of Avenue and North Avenue, on that very day that they was talking about.
I guess I have to keep going really fast. So, as you know, more than 230 people were kettled.
Shut the whole riot down. They were nobody at that time. The media was real upset.
Test.
They couldn't find anybody that would go and set up Oh, shit.
Okay. So we're out here today because
that was in Baltimore. When I came up on the MARC train that day, the nation was in high readiness. All the officers in Union Station that dressed like RoboCop and shit at Union Station. When I got off the MARC train, my motorbike, they was high-fiving me. Those officers were high-fiving.
So more than 230 people were kettled on Inauguration Day as they protested here in D.C., and nearly 200 of them are still facing felony charges. We're here today to show our support for all of them.
Everybody was like, call by, motherfucker,
as the court...
A motion to dismiss their case.
Oh, for real. I gotta go to court today.
Can people hear me?
When it's 9:30. I have not had
Yada, motion to dismiss. We hope that today and every day we can show this court what DC stands for. We will not stand for state repression. We will stand with our communities in demanding freedom and demanding what we need. And I hope that you all will continue to show your support through being at court, through helping people get housing, through doing jail support, not just for the J20 defendants, but for everybody who is stuck at DC jail, mostly on trumped-up charges. So today, let's tell the court what we're here for. Brick by brick, wall by wall, free L12, free them all. Brick by brick, wall by wall, free L12, free them all. Brick by brick, wall by wall, free L12, free them all. Brick by brick, wall by wall, free L12, free them all. Brick by brick, wall by wall, free L12, free them all. Brick by brick, wall by wall, free L12, free them all.
So next we're going to have Hello. So next we're going to have Falcon from Jobs with Justice saying a few words about the charges and about the police in DC.
Thanks, y'all. I'm happy to be here. We at Jobs with Justice oppose the criminalization of dissent. We oppose the use of illegal searches on district residents and people who are in D.C. We think it is MPD and D.C. government's responsibility to ensure that it's possible for us to come out and protest against fascism, against corporations, against all of the things that are unjust in our society. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what is happening with MPD and with our inability to stand up for ourselves. So we reject the use of MPD and local government resources in criminalizing protesting the Trump administration. So we're proud to be here with you all.
Thanks so much, Falcon. Thanks to DC Jobs with Justice. Thanks to Black Lives Matter, Stop Police Terror DC, thanks to the DC NLG, thanks to the DC DSA, all the organizations that came out today to support dismissing the charges against those who are still facing up to 75 years in prison for showing up to a protest on Inauguration Day. Next up, we're going to have Sam Nelson from DSA say a few words.
So DC Democratic Socialists of America fully stands behind the protesters who were arrested on that day. They truly have been an inspiration for the weeks and months that have followed the inauguration for protests all around the country. And it shows that this kind of militant direct action is what we need to counter Trump today. The healthcare protests by groups like ADAPT and others have shown that that is the kind of stuff that is actually effective in this time. So we stand fully behind them and demand that the charges be fully dropped.
Thanks, Sam. Great. So my name's Sam Menifee-Leiby. I'm a member of the Dead City Legal Posse. It's an organization of volunteers that formed after the mass arrests and the felony indictments in order to provide support to the folks who are still facing these charges. So we actually need as much support from folks in D.C. We need folks in D.C. To continue to provide support for folks who are still facing these charges. There are trials set for over 197 defendants that will happen between November 20th and October of next year. So for the next 18 months in D.C. at this very court, folks will be facing hearings and trials based around these charges, potentially facing 75 years in prison. We need as many people as possible to volunteer, to do court support, to provide housing to folks who are traveling in from out of town, to help us fundraise so we can help folks cover the costs of getting to and from this place, the costs of the undue burden placed on them by facing these charges, and potentially their legal costs, though we are not anywhere near being able to cover that right now. So that may be a serious effort. So if you want to sign up to help fundraise, please find someone who has one of these sheets. Folks who have them can hold them up. So that there are a couple people back there. Please sign up. You can also see me after the rally and press conference. We also need help doing more outreach. We have 8 organizations here today standing in solidarity with defendants and demanding that these charges be dropped. And that's awesome. We're super excited. We're very grateful to the DC community for showing such incredible support to these defendants, despite the demonization in the media and the drastic charging by the prosecutor. But we need to do a lot more outreach. We need to make sure that everyone in DC knows about these cases. We need to make sure that everyone in DC knows about everyone who's facing unjust charges in the DC Superior Court and in the criminal justice system in DC. We need everyone to know about the brutality of MPD. The brutality that was meted out on January 20th is reflective of the Metropolitan Police Department's broader practices of brutality and brutalizing especially poor residents in DC. And we need folks to connect all these struggles together. All of our fates are bound up together, and whether it's ICE, whether it's MPD, whether it's the Secret Service, whether it's Capitol Police, manhandling protesters who are trying to protest the healthcare being stripped from them, that could literally kill them. All of this is connected. It's all state violence, and we stand in opposition to that. It's incredibly important that those of us in DC, when folks like the inauguration protesters are facing horrifying charges like those that are being debated today in the 11 a.m. hearing, that everyone in DC show up for them and act in solidarity, because it may be us next time, and we need people to show up for us too. So. Thanks. Next up, we're going to have M. Tallarico, who is an amazing organizer who has been at the forefront of some incredible resistance in DC over the past months. I really cannot possibly do her justice, so I'll let her take it away.
Well, hello. My name is Emilia Tallarico. I am the chair of the steering committee for No Justice, No Pride, a coalition of organizations and activists seeking to end the complicity within the larger LGBT community. I was also one of the key organizers for Disrupt J20.
Yeah, you were.
Going into Disrupt J20, we had very different expectations with the police. We've known that MPD, and in particularly Newsham, has had several large mass arrests in the past that has led to millions of dollars in lawsuits against the city. And going into this, we had very different expectations. Sorry. So the reason why we decided to disrupt the inauguration is that we wanted to really set the stage for the next 4 years of resistance under the Trump administration. On January 20th, 200 plus people were arrested. These people were from all walks of life and were brutalized by MPD. MPD's attacks on the J20 defendants are inseparable from their harassment and criminalization of trans women, because of the MPD exists to defend the power at the expense of historically marginalized voices. By silencing dissent and curtailing our right to free speech, they seek to defend the status quo by any means necessary. MPD and Kirchhoff are now attempting to prevent any accountability by overcharging people and essentially criminalizing dissent in this country. This is not okay. As a trans woman of color, I know I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for my ancestors' brave acts of civil disobedience during a police riot in 1969. Dissent is the cornerstone of trans and queer liberation. We stand with J20 defendants and against the dangerous precedent that these cases would set for those living on the margins. MPD did not follow standard operating procedure, and beyond the amount of police violence and sexually assaulted people behind bars. One of the many reasons.
Just turn it off and turn it back on. Turn off and turn it back on. Fine. There you go.
One of the.
Try it again. We won't be silenced.
One of the many reasons that the No Justice, No Pride mobilization happened in the city had very much to do with the fact that the larger LGBT movements in the city, especially those that represent the more cis, the more white, the more gay, the more socioeconomic, thought that Newsham was a great choice to bring in as the chief of police for the District of Columbia. This is one of the very reasons that No Justice, No Pride came together to disrupt Pride. It was to disrupt the institutional power that these people have in the city over more marginalized voices. I'll never be free while these defendants are unfree, and I'll never be free while this criminal justice system exists, just as it does today. Drop all the charges, free all the defendants.
Thank you so much, Em. That was awesome. And thank you so much for the amazing actions of No Justice, No Pride. Next, I'm going to be reading a statement from Dane Powell, who's currently a prisoner in the DC jail. He was one of the people who was arrested on J20, and this is his statement. The fact that over 200 people are still facing more years in prison than they've been on this earth for practicing their First Amendment rights is indicative of the system we opposed on J20. Millions of Americans raised their bootstraps and tightened them to the point of asphyxiation every day to climb to the top of some proverbial ladder that is the American dream of class mobility, which is all but history. With their blinders attached, much like the slavery a chariot force endures, they don't see the need for the change we truly need. We know that this change will not take place with new leaders or new structures within the current model imposed on us. The obsolete models always give way under the pressure of the dreamers. I have known these dreamers to the left and to the right of me. I have read their messages written throughout history, and I've seen their passion for righteousness in action, even in the face of the most violent empire the world has ever witnessed. We march for every person, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, age, gender, or status, on January 20th. Those to the left and right of me that day should know I feel honored to call you my comrades, and know that I will stand with you to the end. These comrades stood for everyone, and now need everyone to stand with them. Join me in standing in solidarity with them until their cases are righteously dismissed and their freedom attained. No one is free until all are free. So that's from Dane Powell, who is currently serving a sentence in the DC jail. And please chant with me: no more prisons, no more walls, free Dane Powell, free them all.
No more prisons, no more walls, free Dane Powell, free them all. No more prisons, no more walls, free Dane Powell, free them all. No more prisons, no more walls, free Dane Powell, free them all.
Thank you so much, y'all. All right. As I mentioned earlier, today we're here because there's a hearing at 11 a.m. on the motion to dismiss. The motion, which was worked on diligently by dozens of lawyers on behalf of dozens of defendants, which actually will apply to the charges of all the defendants, makes several crucial arguments, noting that the prosecutor is criminalizing people for simply being in the presence of criminalized behavior, which should be concerning to everyone. It means that any of us, if we're in the vicinity of any criminalized behavior, can be kettled and mass arrested and charged with felonies. It's a violation of the First Amendment. It's a violation of the Fifth Amendment due process. It's a violation of the 14th Amendment and Equal Protection Clause. It's incredibly important that we're all here today supporting the work being done to get these defendants free in every way possible, through political solidarity, through legal action, and through social solidarity and emotional support. Next up, we're going to actually hear from a defendant who is going to tell us a little bit about their experience and what this means. This is Elizabeth Legess.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. And let me just say, as a defendant, I'm really glad that you're all here, that you're all covering this. Because there's been a lot of coverage in the press over the past year of protests all over the world that were classed as disruptive and dismissed because of that. And from my perspective, as a defendant in this case, the thing that's been disruptive is the behavior of the police on Inauguration Day, the failure of government officials throughout this process to follow typical procedures and typical ways of handling situations. And this whole situation is incredibly disruptive for our lives as individual people trying to live with the threat of multi-decade-long prison sentences over our heads, and also really to the activist communities that we come from. And, you know, it's hard not to wonder if that was part of the point, to take people out of the game, to prevent people from being willing to express dissent. And we cannot allow that to happen. We can't allow them to silence us. And, you know, the fact that you are all here today is a testament to your bravery, that despite their attempts at intimidating us, you're out here supporting us, you're out here showing your discontent. And I hope you continue doing it both for our sake and for our entire society. So thank you, and, you know, keep it up. And
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So it's also incredibly important, as we stand here in solidarity with 197 defendants still facing charges, that we understand that this is part of a broader pattern of criminal injustice in Washington, D.C., both from the police, from the courts, and from the prison system and the jails. It's also incredibly important to understand that that system has faced incredible opposition, especially in the past several years, and that there is ongoing incredible organizing happening for police accountability and for community justice. Here to talk a little bit about that context and how the J20 defendants fit into that is Eugene Purrier from Stop Police Terror DC.
Come through.
Well, thank you, and first and foremost, I just want to say on behalf of the Stop Police Terror Project that we stand, 100% foursquare behind all of the J20 defendants. These charges should absolutely be dismissed. They should be completely dropped. This entire thing was a sham frame-up designed to criminalize protests, designed to criminalize resistance, and designed to push people back. And I think, as Sam was saying, it's not surprising at all that the Washington, D.C. police, that the U.S. Attorney's Office and others seem to be so skilled at this. Because the reality is that mass repression is not new at all. Mass repression is not new at all as it concerns the Metropolitan Police Department. For instance, you may have heard of stop and frisk and the way it played out in New York. Well, D.C. is the city that pioneered stop and frisk on wheels, called jump outs. That they actually lied when the community rose up and said, we want to end jump outs. They lied and said, oh, we stopped them, we disbanded that unit, we're not doing any of that before, and I think many people can attest, we hear every day about how not only they're still happening, but they're still aggressive, they're still brutal, people jumping out of cars, pulling guns on people, forcing them to give up their constitutional rights and consent to searches out of fear, not out of any desire or reality or legal standing that makes them do that. This is the Metropolitan Police. We have a DC jail where there are murderous levels of heat inside of it, where they've actually become so callous, there's not even face-to-face visitation any longer in DC jail. You got to do it over a video. So you have people here going into this courtroom right here today, no doubt, who will be sentenced to federal prisons that are hundreds and hundreds of miles away from here, and the last time they'll see anyone they know for 5, 10, sometimes 20 years, I met somebody who did 40 straight years, will be through a video screen, not the way it used to be face-to-face. That's the type of callousness that exists here. We know that the criminalization of protest is nothing new. When the movement for Black Lives was shutting down major commercial areas in this city every single week, it was Kathy Lanier, who Newsham is the protege of, who said that we were a detriment, harmful to, we were harmful to emergency service vehicles. That we have become a drain on the taxes of Washington, D.C. The whole aim of it to try to criminalize and stop our protests, to prevent us from going out there, to turn the public against us. This is par for the course for the MPD. And I'll just end by saying this. It's no surprise, other people don't want to connect this, but you have this U.S. attorney with the direct tie to the Justice Department. You have the Metropolitan Police Department where the Fraternal Order of Police, the quote-unquote union that represents them, endorsed Donald Trump. And you also have an agenda coming out of the White House that is designed to strengthen the hand of the state against the masses of people by increasing the number of police and increasing the tightness of the laws, long sentences, and the like. And you also have, from those same people, a desire to criminalize protest, the encouragement of bills around the country to do that. You put those two things together. They want to strengthen the institution of social control, to stop working class and oppressed and exploited people from rising up, and they want to criminalize protesters like these J20 defendants for rising up to oppose that repression. They're repressing the people and they're oppressing those who rise up. I say we denounce these charges. We demand they be dropped. We continue to stand up. We will continue to stand with you from the beginning to the end to do whatever we can do to build community support and to build a tighter, stronger movement against fascism, against racism, against bigotry, against oppression, against capitalism, and in favor of a people-centered world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eugene. Thank you. While we all understand that this is a broader system that impacts all sorts of people that everyone is caught up in, there are also 3 individuals who have been a key part of the repression of these activists. The first one is Peter Newsham, the new chief of police in Washington, D.C., who, despite being the acting chief when this happened, and he was still subsequently then confirmed to be the full-time chief, which is on the D.C. Council. And every single person who voted for that, except for David Grasso, who was the only city council person who voted against his confirmation. The second person is Jennifer Kirchhoff, assistant U.S. attorney. She's the person who has written these outrageous indictments, who has marshaled and put forth these horrible legal theories that is meant to drastically expand the already overreaching criminal justice system. And the third person is Judge Lynn Leibovitz, who has let Jennifer Kirchhoff run roughshod over the rights of these protesters. We demand better from the judges of the D.C. Superior Court. Yeah, not that we can expect better. Next up, to tell us a little bit more about the legal context is the new board chair of the National Lawyers Guild.
All right.
Matt, how do you pronounce it? Mahalich. Matt Mahalich.
Hello. Mic check. Mic check. Am I on? Yep. All right, great. I know Eugene's a very hard act to follow, but I'm going to do my best. First of all, the D.C. chapter of the National Lawyers Guild stands completely in solidarity with every one of the more than 200 people facing these outrageous charges. Taken together, there are 15,000 human years at stake in these cases. 15,000 years of human life at stake over a few broken windows. This is the epitome of putting property rights over human rights, the principle the Guild was founded to oppose. By blanketly charging and overcharging every one of these people, the government has contributed to the creeping authoritarianism and the reactionary forces taking hold of this country. As my comrades have mentioned, these charges undermine the First, Fifth, and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. The government is refusing to play by its own rules.
You need to say that again.
The government is refusing to play by its own rules. There we go. Am I out? Am I on? I'm on. All right. This is an unprecedented assault on the right of the people to freedom of speech. The political organization that these people are alleged to belong to, the government is using their own political speech as an excuse to further oppress them and subject them to these outrageous charges. The D.C. chapter of the National Lawyers Guild calls upon anyone and everyone concerned about creeping authoritarianism, the oppression of the people, the excesses of capitalism, racism, sexism, homophobia, and transphobia to stand together and call for these charges to be dropped. Thank you very much.
Matt Mahalich, everybody. Thank you very much. So we've heard from amazing community leaders across D.C. today, and that's been an incredibly important part of this. This is not just about a couple of people facing legal charges. This is a political process. This is about the police and the prosecutor in the jails attempting to seize more power from the people and attempting to roll back the gains made by folks who have struggled for years to be able to express themselves politically. Now, someone who knows a little bit about organizing power in DC, April Goggins from Black Lives Matter.
Good morning. This is BLM DC's solidarity statement. We want to make sure that y'all know that we're here for political prisoners, anybody who is facing this, as we're going to face this even more going
Free all my niggas, bounce prison.
Thank you. We often think of fascism in terms of Hitler, Mussolini, and overtly racist and violent people who want to take over the state as something that has never happened in America before, but it's close to happening now. But in reality, the authoritarian police state, many people now fear has been the status quo for black people in America for centuries. While people are right to be upset and afraid, it's important to remember that the use of political violence and over-policing is nothing new. It's something that has woven into the very fabric of America. It is as American as apple pie. It is not just the America white people are used to, yet it is the only America black people have ever known. The kind of police tactics used at J20 weren't new. It's the kind of policing done in overwhelmingly black 7th District, east of the river communities every day. In the 7th District, white officers like Vincent Altieri wear overtly white supremacist t-shirts over their uniforms while they illegally harass and brutalize black people. They have been seen in court with these t-shirts on, blazingly glorifying jump outs and have a sun cross, a popular white supremacist symbol, prominently displayed. This type, nature, and ideology of policing black communities in the district is not new. Now NPD has been using the blank check of fascist white supremacy given to them by the administration to use things like Islamophobia, anti-immigrant sentiments to export the militarized policing used in black communities throughout the district. They have already been coming for black people, and most of DC has done nothing. When they started coming for immigrants and Muslims, most of DC was silent. But now that they're coming for anyone looking at, reporting on, or just being around protests, we cannot afford to remain silent. We have to hold the people responsible accountable. At the top of that list is Peter Newsom.
Fight Newsom.
Newsom was in charge of oversight and compliance on the consent agreements with the DOJ, allowing MPD to slide back into old brutal ways. Now as police chief, Newsom is taking his habit to brutalize first and justify later to the streets of downtown DC. As long as Peter Newsom is allowed to continue his reign of brutality, black people will not be safe in our communities. As long as Muriel Bowser refuses to take steps to make DC a real sanctuary city, immigrants and Muslim residents, especially black immigrants and black Muslims, will not be safe. As long as MPD can weaponize hate and political violence in the district as they did on J20, our democracy will continue to be a sham, not only for black people, but for all residents of the district. Therefore, Black Lives Matter DC stands in solidarity with all J20 defendants. We recognize their fight is our fight. Their struggle is our struggle. We can only win when we move forward together. An injury to one is an injury to all. Solidarity now and forever.
Thank you, everyone. All right. So we've heard from organizations across DC. We've heard from DC Chapter of Justice. We've heard from the DC Chapter of the Democratic Socialists for America. We've heard from DC Black Lives Matter, Stop Police Terror DC. We've heard from the DC Chapter of the National Lawyers Guild. We've heard from a bunch of organizations who represent literally thousands of people in the community of DC. This is what DC looks like. This is what DC stands for. We are incredibly excited to hear the oral arguments today. That's not a statement that I have ever uttered before. I'm excited for a court hearing. The lawyers have put together on behalf of defendants some really damning arguments against the fatally flawed indictment put forth by Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Kirchhoff, demonstrating that the indictment and the charges that these protesters are facing were violations of DC case law, were violations of police procedure, were violations of the First, Fifth, and 14th Amendments of the Constitutions. And this is outrageous that this has been allowed to go on as long as it has. We hope today that Judge Lynn Leibovitz will rule to dismiss these indictments. And we also recognize that that is not a likely possibility. It's going to be incredibly important in the coming months, as 197 defendants have trial dates scheduled over the next 18 months, that DC continues to show up for the J20 defendants. So we ask again, if you're interested in getting involved, there are folks around with volunteer sign-up sheets. You can sign up to provide housing for folks coming in from out of town. You can sign up to do court support, take notes on hearings. You can sign up to do fundraising with us and help folks cover some of the costs that they're from just facing these charges. And you can even sign up to do more outreach and make sure that the thousands of folks from around DC who are represented here today become an even larger group. So before we go inside, I'd like to get some final words from Defendant Elizabeth Legess on the motion to dismiss and the importance of today's hearing.
Thank you. And again, I would like to reiterate what almost every other speaker up here today has already said. This is not just about us. This is not just about any particular minority or a group of people protesting or even just one city in one state or one part of the country. This is about how everyone is going to be treated going forward in the society that we're making for ourselves. And today, a lot of the arguments are about whether or not these charges even should have been brought in the first place. And they're arguments based on really fundamental ideas that the people charging us are sworn and profess to care a lot about. They're supposed to care a lot about the Constitution and about the rule of law they're always talking about. Well, this indictment, these prosecutions, these arrests are all in direct contravention to that. And so join us now in that courtroom, sit in there, watch this happen, and hold them to account for what they're doing. Thank you.
Are you all getting ready to go in? What? Can we do one quick picture of everybody signs in front of this before we go in?
So before we go in, let's get ready to rally and support. So no justice, no peace, disarm the police. 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 Show me what resistance looks like. This is what resistance looks like. Show me what resistance looks like. This is what resistance looks like. Show me what resistance looks like. This is what resistance looks like. Show me what resistance looks like. This is what resistance looks like. Show me what resistance looks like. This is what resistance looks like. Show me what resistance looks like. This is what resistance looks like. Okay, one more, just for all of our J20 defendants. We love you, stay strong, the revolution lives on. We love you, stay strong, the revolution lives on. We love you, stay strong, the revolution lives on. We love you, stay strong, the revolution lives on.
Okay, everybody. Okay, everybody, real quick, what we're going to do is a super fast, quick shot of everybody with a sign in the center, and everybody spread out super fast before going in with the signs in the front that you all have. Let's do it.
So we're here outside D.C. Superior Court in Washington, D.C. There's a motions hearing about to begin for a whole bunch of people that were mass arrested and charged with a whole bunch of blanket trumped-up felony charges for protesting Donald Trump's inauguration on January 20th. Today, the judge is going to be hearing arguments over the motion to dismiss. All the defendants who are still charged are facing 75 to 80 years on a variety of felony charges under the last superseding indictment. Defense lawyers filed motions to dismiss that indictment as well as to disclose to the public the instructions given to the grand jury. Grand juries are notoriously secret and manipulated by the prosecution. People are doing a photo op in front of court. I would say there's about 100 people out here, either defendants or supporters.
I'm setting it up. Back up. Get out of the way. Let's get it. Back up. Everybody over there, look over here. Okay, back up a little more, sir. I want to get this angle. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Back up so we get a wide shot. Okay, a little bit more. Just a pinch more here. All right, looking good. Everybody looking right here. Back just a pinch more. Thank you. Right here on a point. I got to see that corner. Back up a hair. That's good. Okay, we're there. Okay, hold it right there, everybody. Let's get that. Look at here. I want to see them signs. Show me a sign. Okay, you guys with the cameras get in the picture. Come on, wait. Guys with the cameras get in the picture, unless you don't want to. Yeah, there you go. My compliments from the SOS Pack, Saving Our Society, putting all of this together, and please come to Howard University, September 16th and 17th.
So yeah, it's expected that Judge Lynn Leibovitz, whose courtroom all this is unfolding in, no one really expects her to dismiss all the charges in the superseding indictment, but there are some pretty compelling legal arguments to dismiss the indictment. Basically, most indicted protesters are simply charged with being in the vicinity of people who allegedly broke some windows on January 20th. And there's established case law, I think both federally and in D.C., about how people aren't committing crimes simply by being in the area where crimes are committed. So it's basically a guilt by association argument that was used to arrest over 200 people. I think 196 people are still facing charges, including journalists, medics, legal observers, bystanders, or people who were just exercising their First Amendment right. And so, yeah, some acts of property destruction did take place on January 20th. There was some pretty sensational images that came out of that. And some people have been specifically charged in relation to some of those acts, but most people are not charged in relation to that stuff at all. They're just charged with being present on that day, maybe wearing black or agreeing to attend a protest, knowing that it was an anarchist protest. So it's basically like political ideology and political association is being used to establish guilt by Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Kirchhoff, working under the U.S. Attorney's Office for D.C., which answers to Attorney General Jeff Sessions. They could kick the case down to local D.C. prosecutors, but Jeff Sessions' Department of Justice is opting to stay involved and, really ram forward this, heavy felony prosecution of Trump inauguration protesters. And so when there was a sentencing hearing for Dane Powell, someone who pled guilty to breaking windows and throwing rocks, they had to open up an overflow room because there were so many supporters to attend the hearing. Dane Powell is a good example of someone who took a non-cooperating plea as a result of the evidence the prosecution had, was facing over 100 years in prison for allegedly breaking windows, and ended up pleading out to 4 months in prison and probation and stuff. So that really shows, everyone here, including people who don't have individual evidence against them, are facing 75 to 80 years in prison, but someone who it seems like one of the people the government had the most evidence against was only sentenced to 4 months. So there's really a disparity between the threatened sentence and the sentence that's been applied so far. The U.S. Attorney's Office is fairly clearly interested in coercing pleas. They've used a lot of different manipulative tactics to try to get people to sign plea agreements, including defense attorneys would email the U.S. attorney asking for evidence, and instead of sending back evidence, they would just send them a plea to sign. Federal courts are notoriously, favorable to the prosecution. I think it's over 90% of federal prosecutions end in a guilty sentence. But yeah, there's a lot of legal support, a lot of people that have been involved in assisting different defendants of politically repressive cases have sort of come together. The DC Legal Posse is a group to look into if you're trying to learn more about these cases. We're going to try to speak with one of their people before we go into court here. And so there's some status hearings, I believe, already underway today, which is basically defendants showing up and getting another court date, scheduling motions hearings, scheduling trial dates, stuff like that. Pretty basic. We've attended some of those hearings, and there's not really much to report from those. But there's going to be motions hearings today where the defense and the prosecution will go back and forth over the motion to dismiss the superseding indictment, which should be really, really interesting. I mean, we can't take video or photos or anything in the court, but we'll try to take notes and provide updates, have an article or something out today or tomorrow. And yeah, so from July 20th to 27th has been a week of solidarity, actions in solidarity with the J20 defendants. There's been banner drops, fundraising events, protests in cities all over the country and around the world. And yeah, so there's a few different flaws in the superseding indictment used against these defendants that I think we're going to see come up in court today. One of the details that really caught my attention is a lot of people might have seen the limousine that was set on fire on Inauguration Day. That limousine is one of the several counts of property damage that is everyone who is indicted is charged with being party to the destruction of that limousine, but that limousine was actually destroyed after the mass arrest took place. So everyone who's facing charges who was in the mass arrest was already detained before that limousine was destroyed, yet they're charged in connection to the destruction of that limousine. And that's on top of all basically the indictment is basically a boilerplate indictment that only specifically names a few people. There's hundreds of people named in the indictment who were not accused of any specific act other than being present at a certain street at a certain time when people were wearing black and were chanting anti-capitalist or anti-police slogans. And so, yeah, it was a mass arrest of people protesting on the first day of the Trump administration. The prosecution is really unprecedented in a lot of ways, and it's being overseen by the U.S. attorney who answers to Jeff Sessions, who is obviously interested in establishing a repressive precedent to discourage future protests or like really any kind of resistance to authorities in the U.S. Let's see if we can get someone to talk to us, and then we'll take the stream down. Okay, it looks like people are getting ready to go in, so I'm going to take the stream down now. We might be able to bring you an update with some people close to the case later today. And so, yeah, this has been Chris with Unicorn Riot. We're reporting to you live from outside D.C. Superior Court in Washington, D.C. People who were arrested protesting Trump's inauguration and facing 75 to 80 years in prison on trumped-up felony charges are appearing today. There should be some juicy motions hearings we'll try to bring you updates from. And, yeah, so we're a volunteer-run educational nonprofit. We rely on donations to bring you coverage like this. If you want to support us being able to travel and cover stories like this for you in the future, please go to our website, unicornriot.ninja. Click on the tab that says support our work. We rely on one-time and recurring donations to be able to buy gear and travel to places to bring you coverage like this. So thanks for your support. And yeah, again, we're here at D.C. Superior Court in Washington, D.C. Trump inauguration protesters going to court for some motions hearings. Thanks for watching. D.C. Superior Court in Washington, D.C. Trump inauguration protesters going to court for some motions hearings. Thanks for watching.